Teething is when the teeth, cut through the gum, and a lot of times it can be quite difficult on certain kids, especially on the late teether. I tend to find that they take a while for any teeth to come in, but when the teeth are coming in, they're coming in all together. On teething, what we don't want to use is oral gel. So under the age of 2, there are very small populations that is severely allergic to oral gel. However, they are so young that you don't know which one is allergic to it. It is such a severe allergy that we prefer not to use oral gel. I know that has been something that a lot of a lot of parents have used before. It is not something that the American Dental Academy recommend. But I do recommend. There are a few days that teething is extremely difficult. That's when they're about to cut through the gum and everything is really inflamed. During the day is not as difficult because during the day what happened is there's a lot of distraction going on. So your child most likely is not going to pay attention to that. But right around 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, when things are calming down a little bit more, they can start focusing on that and they're going to feel that discomfort a lot more. And what I tell parents is around that 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, if your child is crying for no reason and it's just so cranky, this is what you want to consider is giving your child Motrin or Tylenol half an hour before bedtime. Because it takes about half an hour for the medication to kick in. And this will kind of help transition the whole process rather than wait for your child to be really, really in pain. And by that time you give your child the medication, it's not going to work fast enough and your child is going to be so cranky. It makes everything so hard. Again, this process is not a super long process. I tend to see them the most uncomfortable for about 3 to 4 days on there. I tend to have preference on Motrin. I tend to find that it lasts a little bit longer. But again, some kids, especially if they have liver problem, it's much better to do Tylenol. Hopefully that will really help during the day. Cold things, if you can chew on cold things, a lot of time that will alleviate a lot of the problem. How cavities is formed is due to usually 2 components, okay? The first component is the acidity side. In a healthy tooth, in order to get cavity, the tooth has to be compromised. And usually how it gets compromised is when it gets assaulted by acidity environment and start breaking down the structure of the tooth on there. And then the second component is when you have bacteria that is already there. If there's carbs around there, they produce extra acid. So it's a breakdown of teeth on there. So we want to look at cavities beyond what most of the parents know is the brushing and the flossing. So yes, brushing and flossing is really important and we recommend it twice a day. But I think the huge component on most parents that we are not aware of is how much the diet style influence the creations of cavities. Under the age of 10 here, what I observe is that most kids who come to me with cavities at a younger age is due to the fact that their diet style is not good. And by that, what I mean, I'm not talking about they're not eating healthy things. Most of the time, it has to do with grazing. So most parents will tell me, well, I don't know why my child will get cavities. They don't eat any things sweet. And what I want you to remember, it doesn't have to be sweet. It just has to contain carbs, which is, I think, 99.9% of all the stuff that your child is eating. So if you think about it, if your child is a grazer, anytime they put anything in the mouth other than water, that mouth is going to turn acidic, whether due to the food itself or the digestion process. And if they're always eating, the mouth is always staying acidic. So the mouth needs about an hour a break in between to neutralize the acid. But if your child is a constant eater, and I know this because my own children always love to be a grazer. What happens is if I just give them something to eat, they will take a bite, and they get distracted, and then they go somewhere else, and they play, and they'll come back, and they'll take another bite in 5 minutes. So this eating process lasts forever. Or if your child is a slow eater, some kids are just taking forever to eat. Again, this is prolonging the acidity environment in the mouth. So what you want to do is we always encourage parents to treat snacking like it is the mini meals. What I mean by that is when you give your child a snack, what I want you to do is have your child sit at the table so he or she can focus a little bit more on eating. So they eat a little bit more. Also add a little bit more protein, a little bit more dairy, so then it lasts a little bit longer rather than getting distracted and go around and then get hungry 5 minutes later. We are not against snacking. We just want a schedule, snack time, meal time, just like how most daycare, most school is doing. We don't let the child race all day long. The other thing too, if you have a slow eater, the thing I highly recommend is with my own daughter, what I have to do is we have to do a timer on there, because what it does is it helps her kind of being a little bit more aware of the time, and she was preparing for school at that time, and I know that during the school time they only give her 20 minutes to eat lunch anyway. So this is a good habit that I'm preparing her for school. Try to find some kind of reward. So if she eat a certain amount of time, then what we do, we'll give her dessert. So to kind of something like that to kind of help encourage her. If they're really young, unfortunately, you can't do this technique, but you might want to encourage them to take some sip of water in between. That will force your child to kind of swallow and kind of clear the food out of the mouth. Again, when your kid is really, really young, it's harder to create this 1 hour break, but what you want to do is slowly stretch it out a little bit more, and try not to create a habit where they constantly grazing on there. And especially if your child is taken care of by a caretaker that are like auntie or grandparents, make sure they are aware of this, because as a society, how we show love is by feeding the kid. So, especially with grandparents, they always want to show love. So that's one of the problems that we tend to have, is they constantly grazing because it's constantly being fed. The other challenge with the snack time, meal time is if you have multiple children. So it's really, really tricky with multiple children. If you don't have them on a scheduled time, is what happens is one is eating, the other kids will want to eat. So it's always eating in the house. So again, if you set up a snack time where they have to sit down at the table, they're all eating at the same time, that will really help you a lot more with this process. The other thing that we want to talk about is really sticky food. So with most parents all across the board, what they love to feed their kids for a quick snack is those gummy fruit. So think about it, if they eat gummy fruits, it sit on those deep grooves, and you brush your kids' teeth twice a day, once in the morning, once at night, really, really well. But during the day, if they're consuming things that are really sticky, it sit on those grooves like an hour or two. Brushing is not enough to compensate that food being stuck up there. So try to avoid that versus something like chocolate, where it will melt away right away. And again, we're not saying that we're against any specific food. I just want you to kind of being aware of the problem of some of this food can cause. So again, you can give them once in a while, but not all the time. But just be aware of that, because you cannot brush your kids' teeth multiple times. I mean, if you can do that, that's great. As parents, I know I can't. So I just be a little bit more aware of what I can feed them, or something like carrots or cheese. It just doesn't stick on those grooves. The next thing is I want to talk about on the little one. This new thing that come around where you have these feeding pouches that you can bring the food along with you, where your kids suck on the food rather than you're making a mess. It is a very convenient way to do that. However, studies have shown that does cause a lot of problems down the line. So we highly encourage you to feed your child solids food, usually 1 year old and up, and encourage more of that rather than a lot of puree food. Because what it does is it stimulates bone growth, and it stimulates bone growth wide. So a lot of these kids who are just sucking out on the pouch, they never have that stimulation to allow them to grow correctly, and this is another detrimental effect where it kind of decreases the arch growth. This is why at this point 95% of kids need braces. It's because a lot of this newer thing that come around that is a lot easier on parent for short term, but it is really detrimental for your child growth down the line. So if you can, try to give them food where it does require some chewing for them to learn to chew, to swallow correctly, and to grow correctly. So I know that is a lot of information, and hopefully you guys find some of this information helpful. And as parents, I know that it's really difficult and you are very busy. So don't feel the pressure that you have to do everything right. Just try a little bit at a time, and I think even a little bit of something is still better than nothing at all. And you find small incremental way to incorporate this into your daily life, and hopefully the cumulative effort will help your child, be cavity free or just grow correctly. If you have any questions, please give us a call at 303-543-8338, and also look below for the link of all the related videos, especially the ones that help the breaking the habits on there. And also check out our website. We have a lot of really great information on there, and great references if you need that. Okay, thank you and have a great day.